Meanwhile, when it comes to the hospitals, right, we've seen this go on in Israel this whole time. They've been targeting hospitals and saying, well, that's because Hamas is there. It's not our fault. Human shields. Well, today, the WHO received notification that the Israelis were going to be bombing the WHO in Gaza. Like I said, I always thought the WHO was maybe a terrorist organization, and now the IDF is confirming it, that the WHO is Hamas, it turns out. Here's the tweet from Dr. Tedros. He's the head of the WHO. He says, today, the WHO received notification from the Israeli Defense Forces that we should remove our supplies from our medical warehouse in southern Gaza within 24 hours, as ground operations will put it beyond use. We appeal to Israel to withdraw the order and take every possible measure to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure, including hospitals and humanitarian facilities. So there it is. I mean, Israel's even going after the WHO. Nobody is safe. Nobody is safe from Israel trying to annihilate all of the resources for the Gazan people to keep them safe and to keep them thriving to some degree, to keep them alive in Gaza. They're targeting they're targeting all of their main infrastructure. The main infrastructure being the infrastructure for medical care. They're targeting schools. They've been blowing up schools. They've been blowing up hospitals. They've been rendering them useless. And they say, oh, no, but it's because Hamas. I guess the WHO is a Hamas headquarters now. So it's Hamas. It's because of Hamas. And really what they're doing is they're trying to get the situation so dire for the Gazans that they jump on the boats or they jump into the sea and they start swimming, or to try to get to Egypt. They do everything they can to get themselves into Egypt. They're trying to make it so dire and so desperate that these people will do anything to get out of there. That's their goal. And this is one of the ways, by targeting the WHO. I mean, I make a joke out of it, but there's really no joke about this. This is a really terrible thing to be targeting one of the last bits of infrastructure the Gazans have for medical supplies, and they're going after the WHO. They've gone after journalists. They've gone after, and they all say, they use the same excuse, and you could choose to believe it or not. You could choose to just close your eyes and ears and say, well, they told me it was for a good reason, so it must be. Or you could just believe all of the evidence that's out there in front of all of us, which is, this is an ethnic cleansing campaign. If this is not genocide, I do not know what the term means. People believe that in order for there to be genocide, you have to kill everybody. That is not the case. You only need to keep the numbers low enough to where they're not a problem for you. Right? They're a minority. One way a genocide could be an ethnic cleansing campaign for purity. Right? It could be because you just want one type of people living in your area, in your community. You don't want these others because you find them filthy or whatever reason you deem them unpleasant and you don't want them around at all. So one of the reasons for genocide could be purity, but another reason could be for majority, because you want to remain in power. You want to remain the majority. So what you do is you thin out the population of the others to keep yourself in a position of power by maintaining majority. And that is what Israel's doing. People point to Israel and they say, well, they've got Arabs living in Israel. 20% of the population are Palestinians who are still in Israel. Yeah, well, they're not a threat. They're only 20%. They have absolutely no political power. They are a minority of a minority. And so they have no political power whatsoever. And that is one way that you keep, you stay in power, is by just keeping the numbers low, by thinning out the numbers to the point where they do not pose any single threat to you. And that is what these Israelis are trying to do with Gaza. They're thinning down the numbers so that if they were forced to somehow integrate these people in, or if they're forced to have to care for them and to rebuild, that it's for a minimal group of people, small numbers, no real threat to Israel. In a democratic situation, these people will not be able to vote their way into changing Israel's society, or just if they were to be forced to integrate them the way the world wants them to, at least that integrating would be minor because there's just not that many of them and there's way more of us. So genocide could happen to maintain majority, not just for purity. And that is an important point for people to remember. All right, guys, that is it for tonight's show.